This is Dr. AnthonyChaffee here again with a very special guest who I was a guest on her show, Rina, also known as the 5-Minute Body. Rina, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Anthony. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you. Um, for those who don't know who you are, aren't familiar with your work, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, so I am the creator of the 5-Minute Body. So it's really a journey for me to find my optimal health. And I've been trying to find my optimal health for the last 40 years. And we did speak about this previously, but, coming from a very dysfunctional upbringing, I had a very rough childhood with verbal and emotional abuse, restrictive eating, eating disorders, and really trying to find my way through health. And that's what I created is the 5-Minute Body, which is 5 pillars that you guys can use that I have used to heal myself, to heal my trauma, and really try to find optimal health. And I know we share carnivore. Carnivore is one of them.
Yeah.
So I've been carnivore for the last 10 months and I've absolutely loved it. But as I said to you, carnivore cures. Carnivore is amazing to cure disease, to help with a lot of ailments. But mindset really matters, especially when you come from an eating disorder, restrictive eating, trauma, childhood problems. Carnivore is not going to fix that. No diet is going to fix that. And that's what I have really found through my journey, through being almost 40 next year, where I really work on my mindset. I really work on some health principles to heal me and just to live joyfully. So that's who I am.
Great. And how did you come to carnivore in the first place? Did you do like a transition in? How did you hear about it? What made you interested in it?
Oh, not really. I'm an all or nothing type
Mhm.
personality. So next day, I was carnivore. So basically, I listened to Dr. Ken Berry and I was like, what? No vegetables, no fruits. That's bad for you. Because I was keto 10 years ago, right? So I was eating the meat, the eggs, the dairy, the nuts, the seeds. But I still had a lot of sugar addiction. I still had a lot of bloating. I still had acne. So keto is great. Keto works for a lot of people, but keto did not work for me. And when I heard about this carnivore diet, I was like, what the heck? Like just eating meat. I never used to eat red meat ever. I was scared of eating red meat. I used to eat a lot of chicken. Now, if I eat chicken, I literally cannot eat chicken. But I was eating a lot of fish and chicken and lean cuts of meat. And when I was listening to the likes of Dr. Ken Berry, even you, Anthony,
Mhm.
talking about eating red meat, fatty
Mhm.
meat, the fattier the better, that was really, interesting to me to even try it. So I did try it. I did a 30-day beef only challenge. And then, it's really, really helped in terms of eating until I'm satisfied. So as I said to you previously, I'm not the type of person that can fast because it triggers me. It triggers emotional eating. It triggers me to overeat. Because even when it comes with like to butter, I can overeat butter. So I don't have a stop button that I feel that I'm full and I will stop. Or even with some types of meats or just different things, I don't really have a stop button. So, but eating beef for some reason, or even eating red meat, I do have that feeling of like, oh, I can't eat anymore. It's called like palate fatigue, where that's what Bella, the steak and butter gal, said,
Mhm.
where you just eat and eat and eat, like just say beef, and then you just get to a point where you really can't eat anymore. But it's worked really, really well. And it's super easy. Like I just find it really easy. But again, I'm an all or nothing personality. So I don't really care for that much variation. I can eat the same food day in, day out. And that's what I did, like even in my 20s, eating high carb, low fat, but eating the same thing day in and day out for 10 years.
Yeah. And yeah, well, like you're saying, like keto didn't work for you. It's one of those things that like keto is very different. It's like saying a vegan diet or something like that. Oreo cookies are vegan. I always like to say, someone says they're on a vegan diet. It's like, okay, so you're on the Oreo cookie and heroin diet. They're both vegan, both vegetarian. You know,
Yes.
and so yeah, keto diet is simply the absence of carbs. So you could have all sorts of other things that are toxic. Obviously that's why I do a carnivore diet myself, is because you're eliminating all these sorts of toxic elements. But when a lot of people go on a keto diet, they're told that you get all your nutrients from the plants that you eat, the vegetables. And so they end up actually increasing the amount of greens and vegetables and
Yeah.
things that they eat, as long as they don't have carbs. And then all of a sudden they feel miserable because of that. And I think that's probably to do, something, a causative factor in the so-called keto flu, that and withdrawals from carbohydrates and sugar in particular, or
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
coffee or whatever, because there's
But
nothing
yeah.
biochemically that's going to make you feel like crap switching over to your natural biochemical state, or else everyone who fasted would feel like they had the flu the whole time, which they don't, but
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's interesting to understand that, not everyone can tolerate vegetables. And
yeah.
for some people, especially me, it gives me a lot of digestive issues, a lot of bloating, to the point that I would look like, I don't want to say a pregnant woman, but it's a very distended belly. And for most people, they would have no idea what I'm talking about. But it could be because of my, restrictive eating, or don't know what it is, but I literally can't do vegetables and I stay away from vegetables. But I did think that, vegetables is good, vegetables is healthy, because that's what we do see. Even the Mediterranean diet, that I even spoke to a cardiologist, a Dr. Ron Walker,
Yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
going on about the Mediterranean diet. And I really wanted to be polite because I'm open-minded. I love talking to everybody. I want to see what they have to say. Then let me do what's right for me. And that's really important when it comes to optimal health, finding what's right for you. But he was talking about Mediterranean diet and that it's got the most evidence. And I was thinking back to, our live streams, our Patreon live streams. I was thinking, well, even you say around the quality of evidence. I'm just curious, what is the quality of evidence for the Mediterranean diet or even any diet? So it really comes back, as you keep saying quite rightly on your YouTube and everywhere, it's about evolution science, and where we come from, where our ancestors come from. And that's what really makes sense to me. So I don't really try to follow a label. I try to follow what intuitively makes sense. And there is no, like when it comes back to red meat, there is no reason that red meat would be bad for you. Like if you even look at meat, how would that be different to chicken or fish or anything else? Cholesterol, as we have discussed, there is no problem with cholesterol. Cholesterol is just a marketing hype to sell you something that you don't need. Saturated fat is good for you. LDL, not a bad thing. It's all natural. It naturally happens in your body. We don't have to overthink it. Evolution has been there for millions of years. We don't need to think about it too much.
Yeah, and as Ron Walker knows, because he was, we were in a debate on cholesterol together. He was on my side, and he and Dr. Asim Malhotra from England. We were on the camp of, this is garbage. Cholesterol does not cause heart disease. And cholesterol is actually really
Yes.
good for you. So yeah, I know that he's definitely in that camp. And and saying that meat and thinking that meat is inherently bad for you. That's meat. Like that,
Yes,
is that just
exactly.
after
I
you, like,
know.
does your muscle in your body, is that they have a bunch of just carcinogens in them that are just gonna are just
Yeah.
toxic to your body? Like your body is meat. Why would that be a problem? And
It really
and
doesn't make sense, but
no.
it comes down to actually thinking about what you're being told and the lies.
Mhm,
Like even Dr. Ken Berry's book, The Lies That We Have Been Told,
mhm,
you really have to think. And the problem in our society, I don't want to be too controversial, but the problem in our society is that we don't think.
mhm.
Even
There's a lot
what
of
you're
that.
saying, or any, sorry?
There's a lot of that not thinking.
There's a lot of that. Absolutely. We don't think because we're told what to think. We're told how to behave, or, like what's on TV or what's in the media, even what's happening in the world today. We don't know what's happening in the world today. There's so many negative things that we see that cultivates in our mind, and that then proceeds in our behaviors, in our personality, and then in our life. So we really have to step back and question what we see every single day, because we're getting sold something. We are, and this is getting a bit tangent, but we are the product. So if there is something that is keto certified or carnivore certified or anything certified, you're getting sold something. Unless it's just basic meat, unless it's just the basics that you can say, you know what, I know where that came from, you're getting sold something. It's all marketing. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. As you were saying today in our live Q&A session, Talking about, people ask about the different Thomas Sowell books, and I mentioned one, Applied Economics, which is a brilliant book. And I was saying that this was a masterclass on how to think as opposed to what to think. And it used to be in schools, we were taught how to think. We were not taught what to think. Now we're taught what to think. We're told this
Yes.
is what it is. And so we're just, stuffed a bunch of, erroneous facts in our head. Like, oh, this is how this is what's going on. This is what's going on as well. And they may or may not be going on, but that's not what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be able to give the tools, teach kids and later adults, that give them the tools to analyze data critically and come to a decision themselves. And that's not what's happening anymore. And so now people don't know how to do that. And I think there's a purpose behind that, because if you, as they've said for thousands of years, you keep people ignorant, you keep them under control. And
there's so many ways that they keep us under control, even fluoride in toothpaste. There's the tiniest things that they can keep our brains, our bodies in control, because that's how society works. It's about ego, it's about power, it's about money. And if it's not about that, only a small proportion of the society controls the world. And we are all little puppets just walking around, just following blindly. But we need to open our eyes. And relating it back to health, we need to open our eyes to see not necessarily what is the truth, because perhaps we don't know what the truth is, because it changes. Cholesterol was bad 10 years ago. And I'm sure that if you were to hear that maybe 10, 20 years ago, maybe you might think, you know what? Maybe it is. But opening your eyes to understand the evidence around, like even you say the USDA in 1977 published erroneous data, paid off professors, all that. So you're talking about something that is factually lies. It's not factual lies. It's absolute lies that is controlled by the money. So even I had an interview with Stephanie Person, and she's wonderful. She's so hilarious. She has a horse in her backyard, and her backyard is like an outback in Texas. But that was funny. But she even said, follow the money.
Yeah.
So follow where the money is. And I know it doesn't sound great because we want people to have good intentions. But when it comes to, the sunshine is killing me. But when it comes to, your health, the truth for you, question everything. Question the way that you think. Question, life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that used to be a very common thing. Follow the money, follow the money. That's, it's a saying for a reason. Like that's always what you do. And it'd be nice if people had good intentions, but you can't trust that they do, because people have self-serving interests. And so, you need to have a system in place that people do the right thing, to serve their own self-interest. People talk about different economic structures, but that just very simply, that's what a free market society is. You're working you're doing something for your own best interest to make money for yourself. But the only way you can do that is if you provide something of benefit to someone else. And so if you're not benefiting other people, you're not making money. And you could be the greediest person in the world. That does not affect your paycheck. And so, I would love to make, $38 billion a year. It's like that is my level of greed. I just 50 billion every year. That's what I want.
What would you do with 50? What would anyone? This is what I don't understand about money.
I would race mega yachts and crash them. That's
really
exactly,
okay.
Why not?
Is that what you do? Okay.
Yeah. If I had $50 billion a year, just demolition mega yachts.
I wouldn't even know what to do with it.
Yeah, whatever the hell you wanted to. But the point is that me wanting that does not change the reality. Right. So, people always like, oh, it's all about greed. It's like, okay, fine. But, if your greed drives you to do something that benefits other people, who cares? So you want a system in place that even the wrong people will do the right thing. And so,
well, as long as our world is driven by capitalism, that's a pretty hard thing, because a lot of the stuff that we see out there is manipulation by a few powerful people. And, as you quite rightly said, it is about controlling us to think and do and behave a certain way. Because if we don't, go out there, pay our taxes, have our jobs, have our mortgage, where's our banking system?
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, though, that's not true free market though. That's people buying off political favors. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
that's sort of like, they call it like corporatism or crony capitalism. But I think calling it crony capitalism probably isn't fair either, because it's actually the antithesis of
Mm.
capitalism. Capitalism, the term capitalism is actually a slur, brought about by Karl Marx. Oh, it's all about capital. It's all about capital. It's really a free
Of
market
Marxism, yeah.
enterprise,
Right.
as described by
But it's not really a
Smith back in the
free market
1776.
enterprise though, because as
No, it's
you
not.
said,
But that's the problem.
yeah,
It's not a free
yeah,
market, but therein
exactly.
lies the problem. As
Yeah,
if it were, things would be better, because people could compete. You wouldn't have governments picking winners and losers. And when you do
exactly.
that, when you have these very, very, very powerful, oligarchs buying political campaigns and paying off politicians to use their power to benefit them, that is not capitalism. That is the antithesis of that. So that's why the original founding fathers in America wanted the federal government to be basically toothless. Jefferson said he wanted the American federal government to be small enough to drown in a bathtub. Now it's just engulfing the world. And
Exactly.
that's not what it was supposed to do. And if you were a politician and you had no power, you had no power to sell. And so, you didn't have that level of corruption at that time until it's really getting off track. But when FDR started
It's
changing the
okay.
Constitution and talking about and changing the different laws and making it so that the federal government had way more reach and way more power and could actually spend federal dollars on special interests, instantly, bam, you have lobbyists in there going, hey, we want some, we want some, we want some, we want some. And now you have these corporations and these people able to buy favors. And that should never have existed. And that didn't exist for 150 years in American history until the
Mm.
1930s. And so, that's if we got back to that, that would be very helpful. But because people really do like power and they really do want power, they try to affect these things. So you have these couple bright spots in human history. You have a couple times in ancient Greece, the Republic of Rome, bit during the Renaissance, and then you had the American experiment, and we had 150
Mm.
years of that. These generally don't last longer than that, and so we're on the sort of
Mm.
the sunset of that. Unfortunately, hopefully we can have a new dawn, but it remains to be seen. But we had 150 years of that, and then people were just like, yeah, I'd really like to just control your ass. And so they started
That's what it is,
moving in.
control.
Yeah, well, it is. Well, it started with Woodrow Wilson. He said like, oh, we need to get rid of this Constitution thing. It's old, it's outdated. We need to
Mm.
just have men, strong men, bright men to lead people and just to be a
Yeah.
dictator, because we're so smart and we know better than you. And that is
Even
what
things
happened.
like Nixon, like taking the currency off the gold standard. It's all
Yeah,
control. It's all
that was
manipulation.
bad.
It's all these things that we see that we just like, oh yeah, that makes sense because of whatever reason. But it's all coming to the play of, I'm not going to say the US, but it's all coming to the play of power and all these things that we see we really have to question. And this is beyond health. I know this is a very broad conversation. Probably your viewers are like, I don't care about this, but
Yeah.
it's things that we have to broaden our horizons to understand, like even what's happening. Like last year, the US government printed, I think it was 25% of its currency,
Yeah.
and we see inflation. And why do you think, like even now, even like where I live, I'm like, things are getting really expensive, but my salary is not increasing so much.
Yeah.
And things are getting harder and harder. We're getting more behind. Even if you think about salaries decades ago,
Yeah.
our growth in salaries has not increased, but the cost of living, the rise of goods and services has increased exponentially. Property prices, I mean, you're in Perth, try to come to Sydney.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you can afford a beautiful property, but properties here are really, really expensive. I
Mm.
think it's the third most expensive city in the world.
Wow.
These are all Sydney is super, super expensive. So these are all the things that we have to be mindful in terms of, the mind games, the power plays, what's happening in the world. And how it relates to your health is that you have to be in control of your own health when it comes to everything. Question everything. Question me, question you,
Mhm.
question your doctor. And that's another
Mm.
thing, which is when you see your GP, when you see your doctor and you're getting these blood tests, even seeing a cardiologist, do not be afraid to question them. I recently had my lipids done, cholesterol, and my LDL. My total cholesterol was 13. It went from 6 to 13. So this is in millimoles per liter. And then my LDL was at 9 millimoles per liter, and that was previously 3.5. And my doctor said to me, as you know, Anthony, because I asked you, my doctor said to me, you need to stop what you're doing or go on a statin. So these are, and even the idea of why are they recommending a statin? I walked out there crying because I was like, oh my God. But I knew otherwise. I knew better, but I didn't have the confidence to actually question a doctor. And Jimmy Moore said it's kind of like white coat syndrome, that you see a white coat and you just think, oh, they're smarter than me. But you're smarter. We are all smarter, and we need to use and it's true, I'm like a motivational.
Yeah.
But we do. We really need to, question what we put in our bodies, because what we feed our bodies affects our hormones, affects our brain chemistry, affects how we think and behave. So it's super important.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, just jumping back to, we're talking about inflation and everything like that. Yeah, of course, that's just a way of, that's a way of illegally taxing you, basically. Is because
Yeah, it is.
when you take that money, you print that out, it devalues the money that you have in the bank, and so that's
Yes.
just an extra tax that they're levying against you illegally. My
Yes.
great grandfather said, when this all started and they started, taking us off the gold standard, now you can just print money. It didn't have to actually be related to the amount of gold. He said to my mom, when what was my mom? Oh, it said it somewhere. He said, when a country starts counterfeiting its own currency, you're in trouble. And we've been getting
Yeah.
into more and more trouble since then. So,
Every
and
country, like the amount
yeah.
of debt that these countries have, they can never repay, trillions
Mm,
upon trillions upon trillions of
mm,
dollars. And it's just building up,
yeah.
building up. And even Ray Dalio says that if a country's in debt, constant debt, more than what they can make, like from their GDP, there is an issue, there's a problem. And
Mm,
that's what we see in these first world countries. Well,
yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot
A
of
lot of them are like
countries,
that.
a lot of
Yeah.
them are like that, and it's
Yeah.
it's a major issue. And even like when it comes to the ebbs and flows of the recessions, booms, and all that kind of thing, we are due for a recession.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's just not happening because there's manipulation in the market. It's not a free market. Interest rates,
Mm,
money printing, all these things, that are interventions that the government does just to keep the economy afloat, to keep jobs, to keep money in circulation.
mhm.
But that's not natural. It's not natural to have that. It's just keeping going up and up and up. And who knows like what's going to happen in the future. But even Ray Dalio, and I think Tony Robbins was saying that you can expect something to happen in the future. We don't know
Mhm.
when, but you can expect something to happen, because even people like when they live like in World War I, World War II, the 30s, you do have ebbs and flows. You should be having a depression. There should be, it's called winter, where you need
Mhm.
to retract, you need to save. And that's the mindset that you need to have, so that when you have spring and summer, then you can flourish, and then you can spend, and then you can grow. So you
Mhm.
need to have these natural cycles, and we're actually not seeing that. So in
Yeah.
our generation, especially the generation below us, they've never seen a recession. I mean, we were around in '08 with
Mhm.
the GFC. So we've seen the likes around that. But for, the younger generation, they haven't seen anything like it. And they just think this is a natural economy, and it's not.
No, it's not. And yeah, it used to be, booms and busts all the time. Every like 2.5 years,
Yeah.
there would be just a boom, a bust, and then a correspondingly and larger corresponding boom. So you'd have a bust, and then you have a bigger gain right after that. That was happening for hundreds of years, until the sort of federal bank in America started. The Fed came in, and then they screwed it all up. But
Messed it
that's
all
it.
up, messed it all
But
up.
yeah, Thomas Sowell writes copiously about all these sorts of things and gives hard facts about all that if people are interested. But coming back to you coming back into this, you were saying that you had issues with disordered eating in the past, and that fasting would trigger that for you. If
Mm.
you don't mind talking about it, what did you have to deal with, and did this sort of way of eating, did that help in any way?
Yeah, so basically, as a child, I did mention that I did have a lot of, I did have emotional abuse, and I did have
Mhm.
verbal abuse. And that really manifested into childhood trauma. And I didn't know it at the time. And even in my 20s, I did have something called night eating syndrome. So literally, I would wake up in the middle of the night after eating like a normal day's food. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would go to the fridge and uncontrollably eat most of my calories that you should be eating for the day. I would eat that during the night. And so this was cascaded by the fact that I was exercising for an hour and a half every single day, doing cardio, restrictive eating during the day because I felt so full from eating at nighttime. And what I found was this night eating syndrome. So even I was seeing psychiatrists, psychologists, they put me on Zoloft. You know, I had anxiety, depression, all these things because I couldn't work out why I was doing this. And for me, I'm a very all or nothing type personality. I also had like OCD, control issues, all manifesting from my childhood. And also because my parents, they split up like when I was 7. So I've actually blocked a lot of my childhood as well. So I have no memories even of my childhood. So even when I try to see counselors and I try to heal what was going on, I just had no memories of what was happening in my childhood. And there were times like going back to when I was younger that my mom would go away for weeks at a time, like with her partner, because she just wanted to survive in her being in her relationship. And then my sister was at home bringing guys over, doing drugs, thumping the door, giving me hell. So these are all the things that happen in the childhood. And then I had that eating disorder. And then I was doing a high carb, low fat diet for years. And as I said, when I reached 30, I found keto, and that helped. I think eating the meat, the fats really helped in terms of not having to eat at night. I was still doing it. Like even now, sometimes I will wake up, I won't eat. I'll stop myself because I know why I'm doing it, especially if I'm stressed, especially if I'm going through something emotional, which we spoke about. I'm going through something emotional. It can flare up. So that's what I was saying around carnivore. It's great. And carnivore has really, really helped. I don't have this need to binge. I don't have this need to feed a sugar addiction. Even with keto, there's still trigger foods like nuts. Who can stop at just 10 nuts or 20 nuts? I can have a bag of nuts. You know, almond flour. I used to make, almond flour cookies with monk fruit or stevia. I would have the whole tray and think, damn, how could I eat? And even my partner at the time was like, I would eat more than him because he doesn't have any eating disorders or triggers or restrictive eating. So, you know, keto and all that is not perfect. So for me, finding carnivore, I think having that very strict protocol has helped me because meat is not a trigger food. It really isn't. There are certain foods in carnivore that triggers me, like I can't have cheese. I introduced cheese like camembert, triple brie. It's delicious, but I ate the whole wheel in one day. I don't think that's normal.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop eating it. I couldn't
Yeah.
stop eating it. Cream, I will drink cream from it's really strange. I don't know if people out there feel the same way or if they experience something different. But, you know, the media, well, not the media, but what we see with carnivore is that, it's great, like fast, 1 meal a day, extended fasting, eat loads of steak. But for me, it's not like that. I can overeat on carnivore foods.
Mhm.
So to answer your question, yes, it's really, really helped with my eating disorders, restrictive eating. Like I don't portion control. I
Mhm.
just eat meat, and I can stop, especially when it comes to beef. I know when I've had enough. But as I said, cream, cheese, sometimes even bacon, I can eat a lot of it and I just can't stop.
Yeah. So when you keep eating, does it stop tasting good, or does it just keep tasting good the
No,
entire
I
time?
know that you say that when
Yeah.
you eat, you make a lot of food, and when it
Mhm.
stops tasting good, you stop. Well, I
Mhm.
don't have that cue
It always
because
tastes good. Yeah.
it doesn't even taste good. I just because
Oh, you just okay.
it's feeding a different
Mhm.
um thing. It's like a lack inside of you that like the relationship I have with food is not normal relationship with
Yeah.
food. And I'm really trying to, and I've trained my mindset around food is nourishment. It's not for entertainment. It's actually to nourish your cells, your brain, so that you can think and be a better person. That's what it is. So you need to eat enough until you have natural cues that tell you when you are full. But there are times that I can eat and I'll overeat, which is okay, because then the next meal, see, that's the thing with carnivore. When you overeat, then you just don't feel hungry for your next meal, or you typically get that sense of fullness.
Mhm.
But for me, when I have a plate of food in front of me, I don't get that feeling of it doesn't taste good anymore. There is no stop button. So carnivore is not the be all and end all. It's there is a lot that needs to be done with mindset, with
Mm.
retraining your triggers.
So does it, now obviously you can sort of keep eating for other reasons. And I see people that do that, but does the taste experience change for you though at a certain point?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. It
Okay.
doesn't taste as good, because typically when I eat, like, say for example, cheese,
Mhm.
the first few bites are the best. And I know
Yeah.
in theory, like when it comes to food, especially when you're hungry, those first few bites are absolutely amazing, and then the taste kind of dissipates over time, which is quite natural. But I just can't stop.
Yeah.
Like
You
how I
stop right
said,
away.
I
Yeah.
ate the whole wheel of cheese and I was on the bathroom the next day
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that was
because I don't
like,
know, like maybe it's too much fat.
well, yeah, yeah, it can be. Yeah. And, some of those things, yeah, generally, getting loose stools from that would be from high fat. But yeah, I would have some patients sometimes, that they would especially ones that had issues with weight going back, um, and so they would be used to eating certain portions. They say you eat as much as you want, but I would always try to say to listen to the taste as well as a guide. Some people sort of don't take that as seriously, or maybe just don't hear it very well the first time, and then I talk to them again a couple weeks later, say, hey, how's it going? And they say, I hate it. I hate this diet. It tastes horrible. I was like, well, why? It's just like, it just tastes horrible. I hate the taste of meat. It's just disgusting. I have to force feed myself. And I say, like, okay, does it always taste bad, even right at the beginning when you first start? And they're like, well, no, like at first it tastes really good, but I get halfway through it and it just starts tasting horrible. I have to force myself to get through it, and they keep getting through it. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be other drivers, that taste is one thing, and it's
But
and it's a,
then
it's a cue, but yeah.
the thing that you're saying is that they're eating meat.
Mhm.
So I'm not talking about meat, like for example, beef,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
there's
you can
so much
stop on
that you
that.
can eat of beef. I'm
Yeah,
talking about all the other
yeah.
carnivore approved things, like even the carnivore bar. I
Mhm.
love the carnivore bar, but I got half a box. I
Yeah.
ate half that box in like I think it was a few days. If I
Mhm.
have like a stick of butter, that's gone in 2 days.
Yeah. Well,
Honestly, like it's
yeah.
not normal.
Well,
It's not
yeah.
normal.
Well, the thing is too, I mean, like a carnivore is great too. Like I literally just had one like before we came on, but it's they taste great, and I think they're really good for like a snack, or if you can't get to somewhere. And then what I really like them
Yeah.
for is like hiking, or like camping, and you're going out backpacking and you have the
I
pemmican,
love them
you know.
for traveling.
Yeah.
Traveling is amazing. Like, yeah. So hiking,
Yeah.
anytime that you're out, it's great.
Yeah.
But I tend to use it as a dessert after. It's
Right.
really
Yeah.
strange, like the one that has the salt in it. So the grass-fed, so it's the tallow, the salt, and then the beef. And I
Hmm.
just have like a half of it, and I
Hmm.
have that. Oh, it's delicious. Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
it's
But
like a,
like,
I don't know
yeah, but the thing
why.
is too is I think they're like 400 calories in one of these bars. So, so you could easily demolish a box, if you're
Yes.
if you're actually eating it just for sustenance, which I wouldn't recommend. I mean, they are expensive, and they are a treat, or they're something that you have for convenience, for traveling. And I think that making pemmican is a great idea too, if people can do that. Not everybody has the inclination to do that, but I've done it before. It's not that hard, and you can have this stuff, especially if you're hiking or backpacking. You just pack this stuff. You have 2 weeks of I think it's like 3/4 of a pound of pemmican is 2,000 calories. And so
What is
you can,
pemmican? I've never heard of pemmican
the
before.
carnivore bar is pemmican. So that's what the yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Sorry.
yeah. So that's what well, it's a version of pemmican. It's a little different, but it's the same ingredients, exactly the same ingredients. They're just mixed up a bit differently. And so pemmican is what the Native Americans used to preserve meat with. They would run a herd of buffalo over a cliff, and like they got food for
Oh,
the year now, right? And so all the different tribes all across the Great Plains, the buffaloes would be coming by, and this little tribe here would scare these ones off, scare those ones off, scare those ones off, and they just keep going off, just losing some of their numbers as they went, and the buffalo, that is. And so they would dash themselves to death. They'd fall off a cliff and they'd die. And then the Native Americans would go down and harvest their bodies. They'd eat the fresh meat while it was fresh, but it's obviously just going to rot and go to hell, very quickly. And so what they would do is they would dry the meat, grind it with a massive mortar and pestle, and then they would render out the fat into a liquid state, and they'd mix these together. So they take the rendered beef tallow, or the buffalo tallow, and mix it with this dried, powdered, ground up meat, and it's dead bone dry,
right.
and they mix it up 50-50 by weight, and they would
So
mix
that's
that
what the
up.
carnivore bar is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so,
Right.
yeah, and
Okay.
so
Got
that's
it.
the same, it's the same idea, except when you make pemmican, it sort of mixes together and it gets like a mush, and then that dries out, and it's it's a bit different texture wise. um, so they do something a little different in this to make the little crunchy bits and have the fat around it.
Mm.
So that's a little different, just texture wise. Like when I made pemmican, it was more homogeneous, but
You make
it's the same
pemmican
thing. It's the same.
yourself?
Yeah, I made it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's good. It's really good. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's,
it must
and
be
you just,
amazing.
yeah, you just get very, very cheap, lean meat.
Yeah.
You just want really lean meat, and then you just buy tallow. Like in America, tallow is a bit easier to come across. I just went on
Yeah.
Amazon. It was very cheap to get some just all,
I mean, here
grass
they
fed
have it in
beef tallow.
Coles. I think they have it in
Little
Coles. I think
bars of it.
so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I'm talking like 5 liter bottle for $7.
Ah,
You know what
no,
I
we don't
mean?
have that
No.
here.
Yeah. So yeah, I've looked on Amazon, looked at other places. It's a bit more expensive, it's a bit more harder to come by, but you can get it. You can certainly get it. It's not all that much. And yeah, and I know, at Coles, in Australia is, yeah, so it's a couple bucks for like a little block of it. And you can make a
Mm.
decent amount with that. And yeah, you just sort of melt it until it's liquid, and you mix that liquid stuff in with the powdered stuff. Yeah. So I just dried out, cut these things very, very thin, and then just you put them in the oven at the lowest temperature, and you have the door open, and that just helps accelerate the drying. And you just dry this
Yeah.
stuff out until it's bone dry, and then you
Oh,
grind it up, and you have like a high powered blender, and you just pulverize this stuff. It's loud as hell. I mean, it's like you're blending rocks, but like it eventually gets there. And and then you just mix these things together, and they're great. And you just put these, and you put in like in a cooking tray, or like a baking tray, and it just sort of solidifies. You put it in the fridge, and then you just cut off chunks of it. Same idea. And so you can make it yourself. And
oh, that's good. It's much more affordable, I think.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Maybe I might
And
try it. Yeah.
and that's the thing. I like the carnivore bar simply, and it's the only thing I've ever accepted as a like a sponsor or something to be involved with, simply because it just is the ingredients that I want. And if
It's very clean, very
yeah,
clean.
exactly. And so, this is one of those things that I used to make pemmican to go out hiking, or if I went out backpacking. Like, I don't want to bring a bunch of, rice and crap like that. I want to bring pemmican. And so, because of its caloric density, you can bring 10 pounds of pemmican is 2 weeks of food on perfect nutrition on a 2,000
Mm.
calorie a day diet. You may use more or less, but it's that's what 2,000 calories does for you. 10 pounds, 10 pounds. So you go out backpacking, and you've got 10 pounds of pack weight for 2 weeks of food. And maybe you can do better with some dried pasta noodles. Yeah, probably can, but it's not perfect nutrition.
No,
It's not going
absolutely
to be
not.
anywhere
Devoid
close.
of nutrients, by the way.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's just some calories, and that's it. And a
exactly.
bunch of other crap that you don't want. So I used to do that for that, exactly that, and that's why I like this. So, but it's not something, I certainly wouldn't just eat it as a meal. Like, I mean, you eat meat, just get meat. It's
Mm.
better. to do it that way.
But that's the other thing that
Yeah.
I love about the carnivore diet and what works really well for me, especially if people have restrictive eating or eating
Yeah.
disorders, is that you really don't have to count calories or think about portion
Yeah.
control or think about how much you need to eat. Because even as you say, Anthony, that things level out in the end when you're eating for the appropriate human, when you're eating an appropriate human diet, your body just naturally will even things out. Like you can't eat really too much fat. Like even for me, I'll eat all that butter, all that cheese, but the stools, it all comes out. Your body doesn't, sorry, it's too much information,
Yeah.
but your body doesn't really hold on to that kind of thing. And it's really, it's counterintuitive because we think that we need to portion control, count calories. But if you're eating carbs, you probably need to be doing that because your body's going to hold on to all that water and anti-nutrient. But if you're eating meat and fat, you don't have to do any of that. So I don't have to ever think about calories, portions, how much I'm eating, how frequent I am eating. Even now, I will naturally eat without thinking 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
2 meals a day, and I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to think, oh, I need to eat at 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock or fasting or 16:8, 18:6. I don't even think about it. It's so natural. That's what I love about the carnivore lifestyle. I could never do that on keto, never on any other diet, because even if you have things that are not meat or satisfying, or even the saturated fat, even anything around meat and all that kind of thing, it kind of triggers you to feel hungry. Like
Yeah.
nuts triggered me to feel hungry. It
Yeah.
never satisfied me. Vegetables didn't trigger me to feel hungry, but it never kept me feeling full. But the other thing going back to keto was that when I was eating a lot of vegetables because I thought fill up half your plate with vegetables and a quarter of the plate with meat. And what I do now is I have a plate, it's all meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
That's
what I
it.
mean? So it's a really, it's a big mindset shift. And that's really what I work on. And that's what my channel is about. It's all about, I love carnivore, but I really do love mindset because we have to unlearn all the things like we were talking about beyond health. We have to unlearn the stuff that we think is right. You know, calories, even the idea about how the idea of calories and where that came from. That doesn't even make sense because if you burn, you know, a unit of energy, that's not the way that food behaves in our body. Thermodynamics, like all these different things. You know, the human body is not like that. It's not a machine.
Yeah.
Your
It's not a
body is very
combustion
smart.
engine. Yeah.
It's not a combustion engine. Exactly, right? It's not like a
Yeah.
car. Like
Yeah.
it's you know, and yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
my
you're right.
rant.
And yeah, that's the thing is that, when you're eating a carnivore diet, you can actually listen to your instincts. Like you have these instincts, they were, hardwired in there. There's a lot of very complex processes that are involved here. And, are we just to believe that they're just complete garbage and utter crap? I mean, then why do we have them? That doesn't really make sense. And so if you can't trust your senses, or sense of taste, even, it's like something tastes bitter, we're talking about, Dr. Gundry today, and how he wrote the plant paradox, and how he got all these things so correct. How it's like, these different things in plants, like sugars binding with lectins, and causing autoimmune issues and heart disease and cancer.
So don't eat them, but you
But
can soak them and eat them.
no, but that's what he said. It's just like, he's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
all these plants cause all these poisons, so don't eat red meat.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's wrong with your
Oh, yeah.
brain?
Don't eat red. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Sorry. Don't
like,
eat red meat. No, it's
yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah, and so it's just
crazy.
like, dude,
Crazy.
seriously, what is wrong with your head right now? Like,
Yeah.
and so, you know, he's just sort of, caught up in all of this, but like, it, I forgot my train of thought with that one, but like, but the, the whole
No,
thing
it's
with
crazy
him.
in terms of like, yeah, like from an evolution point of view. And even for
Oh,
me
that
with
was it.
like,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was going to say. I remember him saying once, when there was like this little thing that came on. I think it was just on his Instagram thing, and it was this really corny, like sort of commercial sort of thing where like, "Hey, Dr. Gundry, what's better, kale or spinach?" And he's like, "Well, think about it this way: the more bitter, the more better." I was like, "What is wrong with you? Is something tastes worse, that means it's better for you? What the hell happened in your childhood that harmed you so badly that you think that that's true? That you think that just this torturing yourself is actually a good thing?" It's like Stockholm syndrome. You just like fall in love with your abuser, and like the more pain, the better. That's just masochistic. like obviously that's wrong. Why would we not be able to trust our taste? Our, sense of taste says this is bitter, this is gross, and everything in your body is saying spit this out, get this out of your mouth, do not swallow this. So like,
Mm.
yeah, this must be really good for me. That is very dumb. Like, and I'm sorry to Dr. Gundry, I don't think he's a dumb man, but like that is a dumb statement. And
Well,
like,
you can say that. That's fine.
yeah,
I'm
well,
never going to
but
say that.
no,
But
well, I
yeah, I
did,
mean,
but
people,
like, but that's the
yeah.
thing. I don't, I respect that guy a lot, and I think he did a lot with that book. But I just think he just fundamentally missed the point. He showed all of these very interesting, factual processes that from these poisons that are in plants and sugar that cause these harms in your body, and then came to the utterly wrong conclusion. And and talking about how if the worse it tastes, the better. How many beavers are out there eating things that taste like crap? How many deer are eating the shitty tasting leaves? They don't go around doing that. You go by taste. You taste that. Oh no, that doesn't taste good. I'm not going to eat that. That's how
Mm,
nature works. And so it makes absolutely no sense biologically, that
mm.
the things that taste the worst are the best. So you can trust your senses if you're eating right, and your senses can help with that. Sugar's an outlier, but sugar's a drug, and sugar's like, you just recognize
Oh,
this as a
sugar
bit of
is a
energy.
major, oh my
you know
God, sugar is, and that's the thing around sugar is that people actually don't get that it is a drug as bad as
mhm,
meth, heroin, and cocaine. It has the
yeah.
same brain chemistry in your brain.
Mhm,
That is sugar. It's just legalized, like alcohol, like smoking.
yeah,
It's not good for
but not
you.
age
And
restricted, unfortunately.
oh,
Yeah, I
and when you
really do
tell
think
people,
I really do think sugar should at least be age restricted.
no, it should be
Just
banned because it should
well,
be it's a
it's hard to
like the way
do.
that they make these
Yeah.
foods. I mean, it's very hard to do because we would have no imagine if sugar was banned, what foods would we have left?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a major
Very
ingredient in
few.
most things, but but just
Exactly.
even just recognizing this actually does cause harm to a developing brain and to an adult brain, like
Yeah.
that's important, and that's why we age restrict things like alcohol, because it's like, hey, you've got a developing brain, you don't need to go screwing with that, and so that makes
Yeah.
sense, from that standpoint, that you really don't want to gum up the works before they're even ready to go yet, but we're
Mm.
not doing that with sugar, and we are really harming people, and we're harming entire generations of people, um,
Yeah. It's crazy.
billions of
I
people
mean,
at this
like
point
even you
raised on
say that
sugar.
we're meant to live it. So even you say that we're meant to live to 150 years, right? If
100,
we move out
120
of the way,
genetically. Yeah.
120.
Yeah.
So if we move it out of the way, eat appropriately, that's what we're
Mhm,
meant to be living
mhm,
until. But why do we not live like that? Because we have toxins, we have sugar, we
mhm.
have alcohol, we have all these things in
Yeah.
our environment, destroying our mitochondria, destroying our cells.
Mhm.
And look, for me, sugar, I literally cannot have it. And even like when it comes to my birthday, I will not have a birthday cake. I
Yeah.
can't have it because I'll go mental. It does something in my head that I go all fuzzy. Like I just can't stop eating more.
Yeah. Well, that people ask me, like, do you not just have something sometimes, just like on special occasions, like your birthday, and I was like, you want to do meth just sometimes, just on your birthday,
Do you
just for
do
a
a line
special
of
occasion?
coke,
Yeah,
like just for your
exactly. And
birthday?
and
Some people
and
do.
they sort
I
of
don't.
get that. They're like, okay, yeah, look, if you just decide that you don't want something in your body, and you've decided this is bad for me and I don't want it there, then you just don't have it there. If you're, and that's, oh, whoa, oh, good, but don't you kind of want to? I mean, that is coming from a place of addiction, and in, I think in inappropriate relationship with food, like you're saying, food is fuel. It shouldn't be entertainment. You can certainly enjoy the food you eat. I've never not enjoyed a steak that I had, and now that I know how to make steaks better than most people, they're amazing every time. And I get
Mm.
people saying like, oh, I'd be a carnivore if I could make steaks like that, and I am, and I do. So it's like,
Well,
um
I need to learn that as well because I don't know. I don't like steaks. I need
oh
to know how
really?
to make a good steak.
Oh my
Oh yeah,
god.
I see all these
Yeah.
carnivores. Like, see, that's the other struggle I have. One struggle I have, like with the carnivore diet, is that you see people eating copious amounts of bacon, steaks, and all this thing. I don't eat bacon. I don't eat steak. Majority of my food is just ground fatty beef, day in and day out, with some toppings and some eggs and that kind of thing. But I need to learn how to make a steak because I tried
Mhm.
and it was not good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly cheapest to do the ground beef way, and if you like that, there's no
Oh,
problem
I
with that.
love ground
Yeah.
beef. It's $13 a kilo.
Yeah. It's great.
And I buy 2 kilos and I eat like, I don't know, I eat a lot every single day. I just eat
Yeah.
loads of it. Like I fry it up, put it
Yeah.
in the air fryer, make meatballs, patties, burgers. There's so many different ways to make ground beef. But I'm very different to most people because I can eat the same thing every day. Most people can't.
Mhm.
But most people, they actually eat about 13 different things a week. 10
Hmm.
to 13 things a week. And they think, oh, I could never do the carnivore diet because it's so restrictive. Well, you actually eat the same thing anyway. You just, your brain is geared to think otherwise. Because if you actually write down the things that you cook day in, day out, they're kind of, the same thing. So
Mhm.
carnivore, it's like if you're eating this much on a normal diet, carnivore is just like maybe like this much.
Yeah. Well, also
You know what I mean?
there's well, yeah, well, and a lot of things, especially in a Western diet, there will be meat involved with it. You're just adding a whole bunch of other
Yeah,
nonsense to it. And so you can
exactly.
cook meat in very different ways, and you have a lot of different recipes for a lot of different, cuts of meat. Um, as far as steaks concerned, though, steaks are fairly easy. That's why, because you just fry them up in a griddle, because they're very tender, and that's what a steak is. Whereas like the rest of the cow, you have to sort of do other things. You have to, slow cook it or even just grind it up because it's just too tough. And so you can't, like, you
I
cook it
just
up.
find it doesn't taste good.
Mhm.
I can
Um,
cook it, but it doesn't taste good to me. I know I'm
yeah.
strange. People are gonna
Which
hate
kind of
me.
cuts of steak?
Scotch fillet
Yeah.
and,
That's ribeye for
I
people that
just
don't speak Australian.
oh, is that ribeye? I was
Yeah.
always curious, like, what ribeye
Yeah.
was because you hear all
Well,
these carnivores, I eat ribeye. But
Scotch
Scotch fillet,
Scotch fillet is a criminally uh, trimmed ribeye to the point
right,
that
so
the
you're saying
butcher
it's
should
too
go to
lean.
jail. Like,
Right, okay.
yeah, it's just the butchers have butchered it, and it pisses me off, like how they do it. Yeah, it's like, and I've even found some that like take away the fat cap. What the hell is that? That is not a
Ah,
goddamn ribeye or Scotch fillet if you take off the fat cap. And yeah, and they just way too much. But uh, the main trick to cooking a steak is really the preparation ahead of time. Like I've done the videos on, salting, like just as much salt as you would want on a steak. You don't have to just go to town on it. As much as you would want, getting that on all surfaces and putting those on a drying rack, and letting it just sit and dry. Just overnight is fine. That makes a big
mm,
difference. Or, if you don't have that much time, you just salt it and put it out on your counter at room temperature. It'll soak in, and probably, an hour or two. It'll at least the salt will get through it, and it will taste very different. But if you put it in the fridge, it'll actually help dry it out a bit, and that will help it brown
okay.
better and cook better and just taste better, and it concentrates that beefy flavor more, and yeah, it's just good.
Ooh.
And so that's how I do it, and that's how you get, Michelin star quality steaks, because that's how they do it. You go to
Without
these.
paying the Michelin price. That's
Yeah,
good.
exactly. And, some goon to make it for you. Like, you just do it yourself. And, but that's it. You look at these these restaurants, and it's a 30-day wet age, 30-day dry aged ribeye that's, obviously cooked to perfection, because they know how to cook a steak, hopefully. And especially that kind of steak. You've spent 2 months in preparation of that, and then you just destroy it. Would be like, you should be, it's a hanging offense in my book. But like, it's the same thing. So I wet age for 30 to 45 days. And then, I don't do a full dry aging sort of thing like they're doing, where the whole thing dries out and the sort of outside rots and you have to sort of cut it away. I just do that salting, and leave the steaks up, which makes it go faster. You have more surface area and air contact, so it goes faster, and you're not cultivating a bacteria. You're just sort of drying it out a bit. Tastes amazing. Tastes absolutely amazing. So, I'm doing that in real time every day. So, I have these things on delay, because, I'll cut up, two big loins of ribeye or New York, Scotch fillet and porterhouse here. Um, and
Ah, porterhouse as well. So you use porterhouse.
yeah,
That's good
I'll
to
use
know.
porterhouse. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
And
something I can, because I'm interested in trying. Like I want to
yeah,
do what you're saying, which is to salt it, leave it out, give that a go. Because
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I really want to like steak, so I might try porterhouse as well.
You know,
That's
it's
exciting.
it's one of those things. You know, if you really enjoy ground beef, I mean, just go for it because
Yeah,
you're
but
trying to
like,
you're trying to give yourself an expensive taste right now. You know, because like porterhouse and
well,
Scotch fillet are
look,
2 to 3
I
times the
love
price.
well, that's why I like ground beef. I do love
Yeah.
salmon and I love eggs. And if I could eat those three and butter, but if I
Mhm.
could eat those three things over and over and over, I'll just
Yeah.
eat the same thing.
You
But I
can.
try to show people variation. So on my YouTube channel, I do a lot of what I eat in a day videos. So I really want to encourage people to try the lifestyle because especially for me, it's not just as we spoke about, it's just like not a natural lifestyle just for me to be carnivore and heal all my trauma. There's all these things around carnivore that you need to do to find your own health. So that's what I do in my videos, but and also like expert medical expert interviews. But I really try to do the variation. And so when I have to do those videos, I think, damn, what am I going to show?
Yeah.
Ground beef? Oh, ground beef. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
ground beef. No, people get bored of ground beef.
Yeah.
So I love ground beef, but like, you know, like even from the outside, if I cook for friends and family or something, ground beef, but like they don't want to eat ground beef. I have to make something different. And I don't love to cook, so that's probably why. And look, when you like if you try fatty ground beef and you fry it in a pan, it gets so crispy.
Mhm.
It's the and with um what's it called? Redmond's real salt. Oh
Mhm.
my God, delicious.
Yeah.
It makes me happy. It really
Good.
does.
Yeah.
And then if you say that to other people, they're like, what? That's
Yeah.
weird.
There's like those things that they were doing for a while called smash burgers, where they put the burger down on like a really hot griddle with some oil in it, and they would take like a weight and just smush it on there, and go really flat, and it just be like fry up and crisp up extremely on that side, and then they flip it over, and so you get that crunchy, crispy surface area without actually like cooking it, too much all the way through because it's quite thin and
Yeah,
like um and it's very hot. So it's just probably smush it down. Then you flip it over and get that, on the other side as well. But you still have a bit of pink in the middle and you have this
it's
really well done,
delicious.
crunchy stuff on the outside. I haven't really been able to do that. Just I don't have like a big smushy thing. I can just, get a rock, I guess. And like, but I don't have that. So I haven't really done that myself, but
I
it's something that you
I
could
would
do. And
love
I've
to
had
try
had them. They're
that.
good. Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
No, I'd love to try that and then put like a little bit of cheese on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Just a bit of cheese. Like I don't like to go too far like with the cheese because I definitely can't eat a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
But oh, that would be divine. But yeah, it's very
Yeah.
peculiar interest when you just like to eat this ground beef all the time. So definitely not a natural thing.
No, but that's exactly natural. That's exactly what you're supposed to be
Yeah,
eating.
but to other people, it's like I actually don't tell
Yeah.
anyone. Like even you, like you eat steaks every single day. Same
Hmm.
thing every single day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty
But
much.
you don't care what people think of you. I really don't care what
Yeah.
people think of me. But when I try to be in my social circles, I just try to be a bit normal and not say I'm carnivore, although people know that I'm carnivore. But I don't just try to say, oh, I just eat ground beef because that's strange to most people, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but anyway,
but I mean, it's not that you only eat ground beef. It's just that that's the majority of what you eat, and that's something
98%
you
of the
like.
time.
Yeah.
And
Good.
because the other thing here, like the salmon, it's farm raised, so it's
Mm,
not the
yeah.
best quality
Yeah.
salmon.
No, you don't
So I
want
am
that.
mindful of not eating a lot of salmon as well, because it's really hard. I mean, you can get the wild caught salmon, but it's super expensive. So why
Yeah.
not just go for my fattier grain-fed beef, $13 a kilo, super easy, cheap
Yeah.
eggs. And it's just, it's good. It fills me up. It's super easy. Like, why not?
No, yeah, that's definitely better. And just maybe pick up fishing, and then, you never have to
I
buy a
have no
fishing
idea
gear.
how to fish, but maybe you can show me how.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, people do it, and they just go down to the beach or go down to the wharf or whatever, and they just go fishing, and it's just like they just pull out dinner, and or obviously in more rural areas, fishing is a big thing, and people just enjoy it. They just go out and just go fish and hang out and catch dinner, and yeah, it's definitely wild caught. It's as wild as it gets when you're out in some
And it's
random
definitely
stream.
one of those like to lose to kind of chill out a bit as well, like just to go out in
Yeah.
nature, fish, find your meat, cook it at home. It's very relaxing. It's very soothing, especially like when it comes to this day and age where we're at work, we're sitting all day, we're eating really fast, not eating the best nutrient dense foods.
No,
And
yeah.
then we're just so stressed out in the evening, watch TV the whole night, sleep past midnight, wake up the next day, do the same thing. But going back to what we intuitively do, which is to hunt and gather food, eat in tribes, and just live. And
Yeah.
I get it, it's hard in this day and age with everything that we spoke about in terms of power, ego, control, and what the world is like. But finding ways that you can retract, live a simpler life, it is a happier life. Even
Mm,
in my daily practice, I do a bit of meditation, just 5 minutes a day. I do gratitude. I do walking, so it's movement. All these things, they really de-stress you along with the carnivore diet. All these protocols that we need in our lives because our lives are really hectic otherwise. If we don't control it, it's going to control us. And that's what we need to do to cultivate, like even your life. Your life is crazy. You know,
yeah.
it's so varied in terms of your sleep. And you do the best that you can, but as a doctor, we all know being on call, it's difficult. Attending to patients, you're attending to their needs and their families. Like even you said to me prior to this around, telling people they have cancer,
Mm,
all these things that's stress for you as a person, even though
yeah.
you might think, oh, okay, it is like what it is, it's part of my job. But all these things that we do every day, it really does manifest. It can manifest into something like biochemistry that is a biochemically that is a bit more stressful.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to a gentleman today, and unfortunately, he had a pretty bad, diagnosis. He had, glioblastoma multiforme, which is, just the most aggressive primary brain tumor that there is, and really just really one of the most aggressive tumors out there. Um, and this wasn't entirely news to him. He'd had this diagnosis of recurrence, and so we talked about that before, but he was back in seeing us for another reason. And he was saying that he and his wife were there, and his wife was saying, yeah, sometimes he gets you know so upset because he just says, well, what's the point? I'm going to die anyway. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. I'm just going to be dead anyway. And, a doctor that I don't know who it was or what team it was. I'm sure he meant well. I'm sure he was just trying to be encouraging to say, basically give him free license. Hey, just do whatever you feel like doing. Just enjoy your life sort of thing. But he asked me, was like, what can I do? Do I need to worry about eating a certain diet or do this or that? But he's asking, like, how can I affect my disease? Can I help this? Can I do something? Because people, they don't like feeling out of control. No one likes feeling out of control, that they don't have any say in what happens to their life. That's not a good feeling. And kids rebel against this. Like little 2-year-olds, you have to do this. They're already fighting back. It's not something that we like inherently. And so they were saying, they're like, can I do something? Should I eating certain things or whatever? And the guy said, you know what, just it doesn't really matter, because like, you're, and they was asking about like, their blood sugars and this is and that, is there something I can do? Because on steroids for, corticosteroids, not anabolic steroids for, to keep the swelling down on his tumor. And it said like, hey, this is screwing up my blood sugars. Um, should I be doing something? Should I be doing something with my diet? Should I blah, 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 blah. He said, well, like, and should I not be eating sugar? And it was like, well, like, these sorts of things, like in about 5 years, you could develop diabetes, or you could have some problem with it, but, it doesn't really matter in your case. So just, eat whatever, just do whatever.
Who
And
said that?
it's one of his doctors. And yeah, it's just basically, it's like, you're going to die anyway. So who gives a shit? That is not what you need to hear, and then he's going home saying like,
No.
what does it matter? It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter, what happens, because I'm just going to die anyway. And I talked to him, and I was like, I completely disagree with that. It's like your life does matter, and what you do matters in it, to you and to other people around you, so however much time we have on this earth, the things that you do matter. Instead of like, oh, it just doesn't matter what I do, you might as well go out and rob a bank and shoot a baby. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. No, of course it matters.
It does
It,
matter.
it, it matters to the world, but it also matters to you. And the things that you do will matter to your health. And if you eat a bunch of crap, Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hey, you're going to die anyway, so just, drink and smoke and eat whatever. Well, yeah, if you drink and smoke and eat whatever, yeah, you will die, and you'll die a lot sooner than if you didn't do that. So you know, if you eat the right things and if you are treating your body well, you're going to be able to do better with this disease. And it may not be enough to live to beat it completely and live forever. It's a very nasty disease, glioblastoma,
Mm.
but you're going to do better than you would have otherwise, and you will live a longer and healthier and better quality life. And so the things that you do absolutely matter, and if they don't, and either way, they matter to everyone else. And if you're happy and you're enjoying your life, that's going to make things a lot better for the people around you too, that maybe are going to have to stay in this world without you and miss you. But at least they'll know that what, he really enjoyed those last few years that he had. He really lived
Yeah.
the most of them. He got the most out of those. And so, I think these things, really do matter. And, what we do
But that's
matters.
but, but that's the other thing, like when it comes to time, because it's when you have a terminal disease, like even my
Mhm,
dad, he has FTD, so he's got corticobasal syndrome,
mhm.
dementia. And so obviously, and even with that patient, you know that there is an expiry date impending. You
Yeah.
know it's going to happen. And that just makes you switch like, oh, okay, my life is ending, or all these different thoughts. But we actually, in fact, don't know when our time is ending,
Mhm,
given what's happening in the world, given
mhm.
what's happened previously, like in the last few, like even decades. We actually don't know how long we're going to live. Like typically we think we're going to live to 80 or 90 or 100, but it's not guaranteed. So this idea of like, oh, I'm gonna die anyway, so let me just have like cigarettes and alcohol and crappy
Yeah.
food and make myself feel crap. Well, why? What's the
Yeah.
point of life? What's the point of being here? We're actually meant to be here to be joyful, to not to be happy, because that's a different emotion. Happiness, sadness, all those ways of feeling and emotions is normal, but we're actually meant to be feeling fulfilled and joyful. And to do that, you actually need to feed and nourish yourself in the right way for life, and not be drugged by a drug, by sugar,
Mhm.
by alcohol, by smoking, by all these different things. That's what life is. And I think people miss that a lot. Even I have just learned that for the last 40 years I was doing like something different, but chasing the high. For me it
Mhm.
was like shopping, which is probably a natural thing, like with
Yeah.
girls, right? But you just have all this stuff in your room or your house, and furniture and mortgage and cars and all this kind of thing. At the end of the day, if you don't have your health and your close relationships, then what do you have?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And, that's the thing. It's just sort of a defeatist attitude. It's just like, okay, well, then why are you here? Why are you doing anything at all? If nothing matters. And people even saying, like, hey, you can live 120 years or more if you eat right. Oh, I wouldn't want to live that long. Well, then just kill yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, like, like if you just don't
exactly.
really enjoy your life, like what the hell are you doing? Like if you don't want it to last that long, why, then you don't really actually care much about life. Really, what's happening is they're not thinking. They're not really thinking. It's not that you're just going to be, if you would have died at 70, of old age and heart attacks and things like that, and they're just thinking like another 50 years of getting more and more decrepit and filled with disease and pain, and just getting just being in a wheelchair the whole time. That's not what it is. It's not what we're talking about. It's talking about being actually very fit and vigorous and having a very healthy lifestyle. And
Yeah.
but people just don't think about it. But yeah, it's like, it's is what you're talking about, like the mindfulness, like you have the choice of looking at things in one way or the other. And if you sort of just look at it, the whole glass is half full, half empty sort of thing, like it actually matters. If you can look, two people can look at the same situation, come to completely different conclusions. One person is like, well, this is just the end of it, like, oh my god, how am I going to deal with this? And the other person just is like, right, okay, here's how I handle this, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to make
Yes.
the most out of it.
Yes.
Those two people are very different in their level of happiness, and it's, they have the same situation, and you can get dealt a crappy hand, but you can make something out of it. So it's like life's not going to be peaches every day. Life is
No.
is a struggle, and
Yes.
living in this world with other people and all the different things that are going on, like
Yeah.
you're going to have to work for it, and
Yeah.
like it's
That's what life is.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
actually a quote by Tom Bilyeu that if you want to build something successful, the outcome is not guaranteed, but the struggle is. The
Yeah.
struggle, the push, the drive, and not even to do with business or anything external, but think about your family, your relationships. All that takes effort. It takes time. Everything in life takes so much dedication, and it's
Mhm.
going to be a struggle. You're right,
Yeah.
in terms of it's how you think about it.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's one of the things that carnivore has really helped me with, is that I have a much more
Me
positive
too.
attitude. Yeah, I just
Why?
I
Okay,
just
why
do
is
it correct.
that? Why is
Yeah.
that? For me, sorry, I just
Yeah.
interjected because yes, I have that as well.
Hmm.
I feel more emotionally stable. I
Hmm.
sleep better. I obviously am not hungry, but I just see things a lot better than I did before.
Yeah. Well, there's the specific sort of chemical mechanisms. I'm not sure, but we absolutely see that people that are eating these sorts of things, their brains don't work the same way. They get much more agitated, much more upset, and they aren't going to be dealing with these things as well as other people. You get depression and anxiety much more easily. Low cholesterol will do that to you, but also all the different things that you're eating, it just screws with your bread. Apparently I was talking to someone, they were saying just like red dye. Red dye is apparently well known for actually just really screwing with your mental stability. And
Mm,
I think I was talking to Kelly Hogan. Yeah, it was Kelly
wow.
Hogan, and she was saying that like her daughter, basically raised carnivore, the whole time, and she was carnivore through pregnancy and breastfeeding, and the kid was only eating sort of meat and milk, and then all of a sudden, had this infection and needed antibiotics, and it was just lingering on, and just needed antibiotics. So it was kitty antibiotic, and so it was like this red dye, bitter crap with sugar in it. So they would take it down, and they took it down, and all of a sudden, like within 5 minutes, this wonderful, sweet, angelic child is just running around, tearing things around, just freaking out. It's like, what the hell? Like, my child is possessed. And she called the doctor and was like, oh, I think there's something wrong with that medicine. I think she's reacting weird to it, because she is losing her mind right now. And the doctor even said, like, yeah, actually, like the red dye that they use in there is actually known to cause problems like that.
Wow.
And like, yeah, and so these things just screw with you. And so when you
Yeah.
don't have those insults in your body and your system, you're just going to work well. And how many times has someone come to you and just been like, oh, my life is a mess, all these things are going on, and you can just look at that from the outside looking in and just be like, right, well, this is what you need to do. You need to do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Well, that guy's full of shit, so don't listen to him, and do this over here. And be like, and that's what you do. And you just go, wow, that's amazing. And they go do it, and it works. And then you're in that situation, you're flustered, and you're looking around going like, how do I deal with this? And you mess up, and you end up doing the wrong thing. You end up being doing something in a reactionary way, and it doesn't necessarily come out that well. That's what that is. You're freaking out. You can't deal with this. But when you're not like that, you can calmly and collectively look at your own life and just be like, okay, what do I need to do? Right. Okay. Well, that's what I'm going to do. And
Makes you very calm so that you can think rationally and you
yeah.
can really, for some strange reason, and that's what I love. Like, that's why I could never go back to eating just I don't know, like even keto or anything. Like I
Hmm.
just love keeping it simple and I just feel really good. Even like when I traveled to Melbourne and I had to eat like some chicken with a sugary marinade, I felt depressed after.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I felt depressed and I was feeling miserable the whole week because I wasn't eating enough fat. And I
Hmm.
was eating meat, but it just wasn't enough fat.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's quite interesting how it manifests into not just, perhaps weight loss and health, but mentally, physically, emotionally, everything.
Yeah. And I think that, just thinking about mindset is that's one thing that I try to talk to people as well, is that you think about this as we don't call it a diet because diet suggests that it's temporary, and really is we should say a way of eating or a lifestyle, because really that's how you have to think about these things. is that this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is just how I live now. You decide to not smoke. I am not smoking anymore. I will not be a smoker. And that's just something that you have to be determined to do. And if you just say, well, I'm going to stop smoking for now because, I have pneumonia, and like, I'm sort of coughing, but, I'm not going to throw away my cigarettes or anything, you know? So, eventually you're going to just start smoking again. You just will, if you just decide like, hey, I'm not doing this anymore, then you stop. Um, a lot of people say these yo-yo diets. There's no yo-yo diet. It's that you were doing something that worked and then you stopped doing that thing, And so obviously, if you go back to doing what you always did, you're going to have the same results that have always gotten. Simple as that. And so, you're not going to, you don't give yourself like a Teflon shield against, gaining weight if you just do the right thing for a while. And,
Yeah.
and so, this is just something that's like, think of it as a permanency. You throw all this stuff out. Oh, well, what if I need it again? Why would you need it again unless you're planning on, eating stupid things again and getting sick again? If that's what
Mm,
you want to do, then do it. That's your decision. But
mm,
if you really want this to work and you want your life to be better long term, that's sort of how you have to think about it. Because if you don't think about it that way, you're not going to make it permanent. And so just thinking
mm,
about that is like, this is actually good for you. Biologically, humans actually are carnivores. And so we actually just need meat, and we actually don't want plants, and plants actually are bad for you. Just knowing that and understanding that and just looking at it that way, then you don't even miss it. Like, I don't look at those sorts of things as food. They're not food. They are not food. Biologically,
mm.
strictly, definitionally
Well,
speaking, those
who
things are
really
not
wants to
food.
eat vegetables and loves vegetables? I mean, come
No
on,
one
like
does.
you just
No, they
eat it because
don't.
it's
That's
no, you
Stockholm
like
syndrome.
you just eat it because you think, okay, I should
Yeah.
eat it because I need to have greens,
Yeah.
but no one's going to go for it like candy. Like it's not like I have an
Yeah. Yeah.
addiction to it. No, it's I take it or leave it. But you know what? If you tell people that you don't have to eat vegetables, most of them will say, "Thank God," because I don't really like it anyway.
Yeah.
So the meat is the more flavorsome, the better part of the actual meal. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's not rocket science, but the only thing
Yeah.
is people love the potatoes, people love the pasta,
Mhm.
the carbs like on the side of it, and that's the majority of the meal. So
Mhm.
that's where they get unstuck, and especially when you have family or friends eating that, it is really hard to feel I've been doing it for such a long time, and I know if I eat that, I'm going to feel like this.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to do it because I don't want to feel like shit. But
Yeah.
people that don't know how to feel optimal, they will just look at it and have that desire and don't know how it is to feel the other way. That's why even doing an elimination diet, 30 days beef only, is fantastic, because once you eat things back into your diet straight away, you'll be like, shit, I didn't know I had this reaction.
Yeah.
Even with you and coffee, you get a
Mhm.
reaction. Even with
Mhm.
you and training, you don't get sore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all these things that you're very intuitive, that because you're very pure and clean, and your heart is pure as well, FYI. But that's the thing. People need to actually eliminate all this stuff. And that's even when I did the 30-day beef only challenge and I had chicken. I was like, oh, I feel like shit on chicken. Oh, I don't eat chicken. Seriously, I
Yeah.
used to eat loads of chicken. I
Yeah.
was eating loads of chicken, but I took it all out. And then I had chicken and I was like, I actually don't really like this.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I certainly feel better on beef. I haven't, well, it's also going to depend, I guess, on what the chicken eats, of course, but like, I didn't feel bad anyway, at least, but I never felt as good. But that's the same for bacon
Sorry,
as
I
well,
didn't
unfortunately.
feel as good. So when I had the
Yeah. Okay.
chicken with the sugary marinade, I
Oh,
felt
yeah. Yeah.
bad. But when
Yeah.
I just have chicken, plain chicken, cooked, fried, or something, I don't feel as good.
Right. Yeah.
That's the key. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I do notice that, like, just red meat just has more nutrients, and and older cows, the reason they taste better to me anyway, they're more nutrient dense. They've had a longer time to deposit nutrients, and so they're just going to taste better. They're going to have more flavor because those are going to give chemical responses to your tongue, and it's going to say, whoa, that's some flavor right there. And so you get a stronger flavor. We know this, like mutton has a much stronger flavor than lamb, and lamb has a decently strong flavor. So people say, okay, avoid mutton, it's too strong of a taste or something like that. Maybe that's their preference, but I actually like that, and especially with beef like an older cow. Oh my God, it just tastes so much better, so much better. um
Oh,
but
that's
yeah,
good.
So when you talk to people about all this, maybe something that you've noticed yourself, but what are some of the common, mistakes or pitfalls that people run into, when they're going on a carnivore diet, that they run into that maybe can stall their success or maybe even derail them to where they give up?
Yeah, I mean, easily is that you have to portion control, that you have to calorie count, that you have to
Mm,
fast, that you have to have 1 meal a day, you have to have 2 meals a day, that you just have to, just be doing red meat only, that you have to eat bacon. There's so many things,
yeah.
but the biggest mistake is comparison games. Looking at what other carnivores do and then think that you need to do that. And that's what I did. I was like, I should be eating 1 meal a day. I should be eating more bacon. I should not see, like, I was, even now when I talk about ground beef, I was just like, oh, I eat ground beef and I feel a bit embarrassed about it, but that's cool because I don't eat steak,
Mhm,
because we see people eating steak. That makes sense.
mhm.
So there is all these things. And then also, being around family and friends. So they're not going to support you initially. Most of them won't because they don't understand it. Carnivore is not mainstream, and then they will scare you. And the idea about cholesterol, all these things, these are mistakes that I made along my journey. Even thinking that you have to be perfect all the time. Sometimes, like for example, I had the chicken with the sugary marinade. I was embarrassed to show it on my video because I was like, oh, that's not perfect.
Mhm.
That's okay. But the thing is, keep going at it. You're not going to
Yeah.
be perfect all the time, especially when you eat out. The
Yeah.
idea that you can't control what oils they cook in. They're going to cook in seed oils. You can't
Yeah.
control that. So what are you going to do? Sit at home the whole time? No. So even for me, the biggest mistake for me as well was just to be relaxed about it. Eat your meat, enjoy social occasions, but don't be so finicky where you're just thinking. I mean, for you, you might do that. Um, Around the seed oils, I don't know. But for me, I
Yeah.
don't
I'd try
say, is that cooked with canola oil? I just say, can I have salmon or beef or something or a steak? I'm just easygoing because I don't want to be embarrassing around my friends. And then there was another mistake that I was going to say, which I forgot about. But I did a video on my top 10 carnivore
okay.
mistakes.
Yeah. No, but I agree with all those, I mean, it's really just comes down to like just complicating it. You just don't
Yeah,
need to
exactly.
complicate.
Complicating
Yeah.
it, making it harder than, because it's a
Mm,
very, very, very simple protocol. It's probably the
yeah.
simplest protocol that you can eat out there to get you maximum results.
Mhm.
But it's looking left and right and seeing what other people are doing and thinking you have to do the same thing. And you
Yeah.
don't. And I think the
Yeah.
biggest mistake as well, I'm saying everything is the biggest mistake, but a big mistake is the forced fasting. Even
Yeah.
you say you don't fast, it's just that you're not hungry. So it's this mindset shift around, we're not fasting, we're just not hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and that's what I call it. It's just like, the forced deprivation of food when you
Yeah.
feel that you need it. That's fasting. Um,
Yes.
I don't fast unless I have to, if I don't have access to food because I'm working and I can't leave the hospital. Yeah, okay. I just won't eat because I can't, but whatever. But yeah, but I don't do it otherwise, but I end up eating, once a day usually, and sometimes twice a day, depending on if I'm working out or not. And that's, but that's not fasting. I'm eating when I'm hungry, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, and that was a good point you made that, just because you slip up, it doesn't mean that you're banned from the club. Like you can still you can still kick it, it's all right. Like, I talk to people, friends of mine, on the rugby team over in Seattle. They started getting on it, and they were just like, "Oh man, I've never felt stronger. I felt so great just eating meat." But then I went to my parents' house for dinner, and they had some rice in it, so I ate some rice. So I guess that's
That's okay.
I
That's
guess
totally
that's it now.
fine.
And like they were so
Yeah.
dejected, and I was like, "Okay, well
Yeah.
just
And
start up
and
again."
then
Like,
sometimes they feel bad, like, oh my God, I had rice. That's so bad. Listen,
yeah.
if you're doing carnivore and you're doing it 99%, you're 99% better than most other people.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and the thing is like you'll start seeing like how much better you feel when you don't have the rice, and actually how much the rice affects you, and you're sore for 4 days and your back hurts and you're like, oh, why the hell would I don't want that stuff. And you'll just have a natural aversion to it. And so,
Yes.
and as like, there's some people that everyone I think I've actually been very, very surprised at like the comments that I get on my videos have been so positive, and it's very nice to see people, saying that, how much things have helped. And I really love seeing that. It definitely makes this stuff worth it. But um, sometimes, I'll talk to someone who isn't as strict as I am, and I'll just talk to them because I'm just interested in their experiences with it. And, obviously I voice my opinion, but it's that's what's right for me. And in the sense that I really like being pure, I really like feeling my best. Not everyone
Mm,
really cares that much, or maybe they don't realize how much of a difference it makes. But they're
mm.
saying like, oh, I really wish you would have, called that guy out for, what they said about this. And it's just like, you know, someone who's 80% my ally is not 20% my enemy. It's
Yes.
okay, to differ in these sorts of things. And, we're all working in the same direction. We're all trying to promote meat. We're all trying to say that this is a healthy thing, that people can take control of their health and their life, by just changing very simple things in your life. And, I talk about what I think is optimal and what's the best of the best of the best. And, maybe that people don't care to have that fine tune of their health, but, and they want something else. That's totally fine. That's not my choice. I really
Mm.
like feeling amazing, you know, rather than anything I've ever eaten tastes, ever, you know, and, I would
Mm.
rather, feel like a superhero 24/7 than eat something nummy sometimes. I mean, I just don't care about
Yeah.
that part of things, but, some
It's
people
it's
may,
a
they want,
2-minute pleasure and a
mm,
lot of pain that comes from eating the wrong
yeah,
food. That's what I think of it. So if I
yeah,
want to ever think that, oh, I feel like something, well, how long does it actually take you to eat that piece of chocolate cake or cookie?
yeah. How much you
Actually
getting out of that?
time it. But
Yeah,
actually time it. But
yeah,
think about the consequences it's going to have on your body, your biochemistry, and how hungry
yeah,
and addicted it's going to make you after. It's the same thing with a cigarette. Time how long it takes you to have a cigarette. It's literally like, I don't know, a minute. Is it really
yeah,
worth that minute? Not
yeah,
really.
yeah. And
That's how
little sort of
that's the
effect that you
shift
get
that I made.
afterwards.
And
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah, that's the
it's like,
shift that I made.
yeah, it's like the old saying, a moment on the lips, forever on the hips.
Yeah.
And so like it is, you just like you
True.
have something, this little bit of something, and it's enjoyable. Like, of course it is. But then this has this has actual serious downstream effects. It's not just, oh, it's just a little bit, oh, it's not that big a deal. That's the exact same argument that junkies have with cocaine and meth. Oh,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit. It's just a line here and there. It's not that big a deal. It was like,
And it's
is it?
so weird, like when you say that, right? Like it's just a
Yeah,
line of Coke, like here or there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
actually, that's what sugar is, and it's chemically designed.
Mm,
It's chemically designed to. It's not just sugar. Like who can eat table sugar? No one can, right? Like you eat it, it's like that's weird. Like I'm not going to eat a
mm,
bag full of table sugar. Why is it so easy to eat an Oreo cake or a cookie or like all that
mm,
delicious stuff? Because
yeah,
it's not just sugar, they're chemically designing it to make it so
yeah.
addictive and hyper palatable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then, the sugar and combined with fat is definitely
Oh,
a deadly
yes,
one.
that's the sweet spot. That's the
Yeah,
sweet spot.
because you actually are getting signals to your brain like, oh, fat's good for me. That's good. So it increases that signal response. And also, just granulated sugar. I think it's a lot of it just to do with texture. It's just kind of, oh, but you eat frosting. Frosting is just pure sugar.
Oh,
People
yeah,
just,
yeah.
lick bowls of
True.
frosting. But there was even a video I saw on something that just popped up. And it was this little kid, and someone was just like, "Oh yeah, my little brother's like, oh, what an animal! Look at this guy!" Like this was a good thing. A bag of sugar at the grocery store had broken and spilled over on a shelf, and his head, he was sticking his head into the shelf and was just licking the sugar off
Oh.
the shelf. It's just like, yeah, that's disgusting. He's like, "Oh yeah, look at him doing all these lines and licking up cocaine. What a badass!" I mean, it's the same thing. That kid is addicted to sugar, and he's doing something that's eminently bad for him, and you think that's funny and cute. Like that's disgusting. And and
Yeah.
people do talk about that. I have heard people who do drugs say that, oh, it's just a couple of drinks. Oh, it's just a drink. It's not that big a deal. It's just one drink. What's the big deal? You just what's the big deal? Okay, it's not a big deal to you, but it is a big deal to other people. Or oh, it's just a couple lines. What's the big deal? A couple lines every now and then, every couple months. Well, who cares? It's not going to do anything. Yeah, maybe not, but a little bit can turn into a lot, really quickly. And of course, it does
It
have an
opens the
effect,
door. It
a
does. It
negative effect
does.
on your body.
Yeah, yeah. There's nobody that can just have just a little bit every now and then, like
Yeah.
being such a moderator. It's really not the case.
Well,
It's
there,
really,
there,
really not the case.
I mean, there are exceptions. I mean, there are some people. I actually do know
There are some
people that like
people,
every now and
they're
then
yeah,
do coke, like
yeah.
every couple months. That I went to college with, and they were sincere about it, and they're just like every now and then they would do this stuff, and but you go through ebbs because they would actually started going through these things where they're doing more and more and more, and then they sort of pulled back and were able to control it a little better, and just every now and then they do stupid things, but um mostly they're not doing that anymore. But I had had one friend that I went to college with, and he did drugs during college, and he said that, well, this is going to be my college experience, and then after that I'm done. I'm not going to do anything after that. And he actually did. He actually stopped. Well, you'll see why I say that, but like he stopped, and he's just like, man, this guy did a lot. I mean, he was doing cocaine and other drugs regularly, if not daily, then several times a week. And then he's like, yeah, no, I'm graduating. So yeah, I'm done with this. I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah, because I just said that was going to be a college thing and just never doing it again. So yeah, I'm just not going to do it again. And he like stopped. And then all of a sudden, but he's just like, I mean, except when I go to work out, I just do like 2 lines right before I go to the gym and I just get a better workout that way. But
What?
that's it. It's only 2 lines. 2 lines is nothing. Like it's not that big a deal. Like maybe to you, man, like 2 lines is 2 more lines than I've ever done. So like I don't need I
Jeez,
don't need that's
yeah.
a lot to me. And
That's
so it
crazy.
is crazy. But that's what these people are able to convince themselves are or it's just a normal thing. Oh, it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. Oh, just have a cookie. What's the big deal? People say that about kids. Oh, why don't you let kids enjoy themselves? What's a big deal? It's just a cookie.
No, that's why they have behavior problems. Like I
Mm,
literally see my niece and when she sees the sugar, she is actually, my sister hides the sugar on the top shelf
mm,
and she will get a stool and she will find a way to get that sugar. That's not normal.
no,
That's not normal. That's
no.
addiction.
Yeah,
At
absolutely.
6 years old, that's addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. Just eating sugar, that's not good. But yeah. Um, all right. Is there anything else you wanted to close with or say, or anything that you wanted to address that we haven't spoken
No,
about?
that was everything. That was
Cool.
amazing. Lots of fun. Thank you, Anthony.
Awesome.
I did want to tell people where they could find me. I've got a
Please do.
YouTube channel,
Yeah.
Instagram, and a
Mhm.
website, all the same name, 5 Minute Body.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, we'll put those in the show notes as well, and people can find you there, and I encourage them to do that. And also, we obviously do a Patreon Q&A session every week. Try to do it every week.
Yes.
Work pending and willing. And unfortunately, that does change times and dates just because my schedule sucks, and it is not
Well,
regular.
being a neurosurgeon, I think that we can forgive you, Anthony.
Yeah.
So that's totally fine.
Nice. But yeah, and so if you guys want to follow her stuff, please do, and then you can see us as well when we're doing our Q&A sessions.
Perfect.
Rina, thank you so much. It was lovely to have you.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks.